You don't have to go on hundreds of cruises to act like a pro cruiser. In fact, there are 12 simple things you can do on your next cruise that will have everyone thinking you've been sailing for years, and we cover them all up next. Welcome aboard, cruisers. I'm Don B from Eat, Sleep, Cruise, where we help you see the world one port at a time. Many cruisers ask us for tips for things they should do on a cruise. But recently, we asked our cruise community on our blog and social media what are some actions that they would actually never ever do on a cruise. And even though we've been on over 75 cruises, some of the advice they gave us had us rethinking how we approach our next trip. So let's dive in. It shouldn't be a surprise when we ask individuals who've sailed quite often what's the one thing they would never do on a cruise. The most frequent answer we received was be rude to the crew and the staff. We heard everyone loud and clear. The staff throughout the ship, whether it's the stateroom attendants, the dining room staff, bar servers, or those on the pool deck, all work extremely hard. Despite working 10 to 12 hour days, the staff is always friendly and helpful. So fellow cruisers need to share the love. We admit that issues and problems may arise while on a cruise, and you should definitely raise these issues with the appropriate individuals on the ship. But there's no reason to yell, scream, and certainly no reason to swear or berate any crew member. And we're the first to admit that things have popped up on our cruise that made us upset. When this happens, we just take a deep breath and work with crew members to rectify the issue so we can go back to enjoying our cruise vacation. Cruise ship cabin amenities and layouts have come a long way since we first started cruising together in 2007. While the cruise lines have found ways to enhance the comforts of the cabins, be careful as not all of these upgrades are free. So if you find water bottles, soda, or alcohol in your room's mini fridge, pro cruisers know not to consume those beverages. Now, if you ordered a bottle of champagne or sent a package as a gift from your travel advisor or the cruise line, then yes, this is yours to enjoy on the trip or bring home with you. However, any additional snacks or beverages not ordered are most likely not part of your cruise fare. This is even true if you have the cruise line's drink package. Only luxury cruise lines include minibar purchases in their drink packages and onboard inclusions. Likewise, those robes and slippers in the closet make relaxing on the ship easy, but if you pack them, don't be surprised when the cruise line sends you a bill. Depending on the cruise line or your cruise ship cabin category, your accommodations might include items like binoculars, an umbrella, yoga mats, leather-bound portfolios, commemorative books, or other trinkets. These items are great to look at and enjoy while on your trip, but don't take them home unless you're willing to pay for them. Actually, some cruise lines have begun adding price tags to some of these items in their cabins. For instance, Virgin Voyages makes it very clear that certain items in the cabin are meant to stay there, or you need to purchase them. Most cruise lines frequently ask questions clearly state what you can and can't bring on board a cruise. We seasoned cruisers always laugh when exiting the ship and seeing a number of confiscated items like irons, steamers, and non-ship approved power outlets. Now, the last one is tricky, as several power adapters on Amazon claim to be cruise ship approved, but really they're not. Now, a good rule of thumb is that you should not purchase a power adapter that has a cord or a power surge. Along with these prohibited items, there are many other pretty standard things you shouldn't pack on a cruise ship, and of course, pro cruisers leave those items at home. Some of the obvious ones are things like firearms, candles, or hot plates. Another big no-no to pack is any prohibited substances. So regardless of your state's laws, you should not pack any marijuana or marijuana-infused products. This also goes for CBD products. No cruise line allows those products on board. Also, know your cruise line's policy on bringing alcohol on board. Yes, most cruise lines allow you to bring 2 bottles of wine in your carry-on bags, not your checked luggage. But check your cruise line's corkage fees to see if you really save any money bringing those bottles of wine on board. Except for a few luxury cruise lines, most contemporary and premium cruise lines do not allow you to bring any bottles of liquor on board. And of course, pro cruisers never try to sneak prohibited alcohol on board a cruise ship, whether it's in their checked luggage or in their carry-on. Of course, many individuals that love to cruise like to go and have a good time. That doesn't mean they throw caution to the wind and act recklessly. In fact, it's the complete opposite. Those who sail often are very respectful of the safety procedures on board cruise ships. And one of the top safety announcements you will hear on any cruise ship is to not have items go overboard. The cruise line strictly enforce this regulation not only for safety, but also for environmental reasons. Of course, we know members of our community here on YouTube would never do anything as blatant as throwing trash overboard. But pro cruisers are also extra careful with items like napkins, cups, plates, and silverware. They're also extra vigilant with other light objects like magazines or the daily schedule, your room key card, shore excursion tickets, or other light items. With ships sailing at up to 20 knots, it doesn't take much for lighter items on the Lido deck to go flying away. That's why throwing empty containers out in the trash or bringing them to the nearest stations on the outdoor decks is essential. Likewise, whatever you do on your next cruise, you should never leave clothes or other personal items unattended on your stateroom balcony. This goes for items like towels or bathing suits as well. Even if the ship is docked at a port of call, the wind can blow these items overboard. Most cruise ship bathroom showers have clotheslines if you need to dry clothes. Or you can use magnetic hooks to hang them up in your stateroom. If you follow us on social media, you know my wife Heidi is a big fan of formal nights. Yet myself and many other seasoned cruisers aren't on team evening chic. While cruise attire is somewhat laid back, a dress code does exist for specific venues on board the ship, and that dress code does change on certain nights. Whether or not cruisers agree with the trend in onboard fashion, those who cruise often respect the cruise line's rules and suggested attire. So these cruisers do dress up to some degree on formal night to eat at the MDR. Mind you, this doesn't have to be a suit and tie or a cocktail dress. Wearing a pair of slacks and a collared shirt or a summer dress for the ladies is acceptable on most cruise lines. Those seasoned cruisers who want to stay in their shorts and flip-flops told us they just simply eat at the buffet or another casual restaurant on those formal nights. During the rest of the cruise, most cruise ships' main dining rooms have a smart casual dress code. So it's never really okay to show up to dinner in a bathing suit, a white t-shirt or tank top, or head to dinner wearing a baseball cap. If that's what you're thinking of wearing, you should either change to the appropriate attire or find somewhere else to eat. Of course, some cruise lines enforce these rules more than others, but knowing the suggested dress and making sure your outfits align to those recommendations is the sign of a pro cruiser. Further, certain activities on board the cruise ship might have a dress code as well. So review these attractions prior to your cruise to be sure you pack the necessary items. Some activities may require closed-toed shoes, like laser tag or ropes courses. Other activities might also require a sleeved shirt for safety. All you need to do is go on social media or any of the message boards to see the horror stories about travelers who went on a cruise only with a birth certificate and an ID. It doesn't matter if the cruise is a 2-day getaway or cruise line officials insist all you need is a birth certificate. Pro cruisers never cruise without a passport, regardless of the destination. It is true that US citizens do not need a passport on closed-loop cruises, which are cruises that begin and end at the same US home port. But we always recommend you have a passport, and many in our community also agreed with this assessment. If you miss a ship in a port of call, or you need to leave the ship unexpectedly, you will need a passport to re-enter the US by air. In the event of an illness or injury, travelers without a passport must visit the nearest US embassy or consulate to apply for a temporary visa to re-enter the United States. So basically, it's a lot of paperwork if anything happens and you need to debark the ship in a foreign country. Cruise gratuities are service charges not included in a standard cruise fare on most contemporary cruise lines. These additional fees are a per person per day dollar amount charged to all guests, usually automatically across all stateroom categories. These service charges serve as a means to reward the hardworking crew for the excellent service provided during your cruise. While it is possible to remove or modify cruise gratuities, several pro cruisers told us they never remove cruise gratuities. In fact, many cruisers actually said they choose to tip above and beyond this rate, but that is certainly not required. Frequent cruisers all know the term chair hog. We've all witnessed individuals wake up at dawn to place towels on prime loungers near the pool and then leave them there for hours while they go back to sleep or do other things around the ship. While many cruisers told us that they hate when other cruisers do this, a good number of our pro cruisers admitted that they do indeed wake up early to claim chairs. The big difference here, though, is that the latter also claim that they do not abandon the chairs. These cruisers reserve the chairs and actually stay in them for the majority of the time. And we're the first to admit that we do wake up early on sea days to get some sun loungers on the open air decks. But when we no longer want the chairs, we remove our items and leave them for others to enjoy. On the other hand, chair hogs think nothing of leaving their chairs empty for hours while they're off doing other activities. Of course, this is not fair to other passengers on the ship. It's also incredibly frustrating to arrive at the pool deck by 8 a.m., find all the deck chairs with towels, but no cruisers. To try and combat these chair hogs, some lines have systems in place where the crew will remove towels from vacant chairs after 30 minutes. While enforcement can be difficult, you can do your part by pointing out these situations to crew members. On most cruise lines, smoking is only allowed in designated areas of the ship. These designated areas may be indoors, outdoors, or on some cruise lines, both. So if you are a smoker, you should read up on the policies before you cruise. You can also ask staff to point out the designated areas once on board the ship. However, smoking is strictly prohibited in your stateroom and at almost every cruise line on your balcony. This usually includes vaping as well. For safety reasons, cruise lines do take these rules very seriously. Remember, cruise ships have cameras everywhere. If you're caught, your cruise line can fine you or even kick you off the ship. Even if you don't get caught, smoking in prohibited areas will just annoy the rest of your fellow passengers. While nothing is 100% effective in eliminating your risk of illness while cruising, there are some simple ways to reduce the risk of getting sick while traveling. The number one way is to practice proper hand hygiene. This is why cruise ships have hand washing stations or hand sanitizers spread throughout the ship. It doesn't take much to stop for a few seconds to sanitize your hands while walking to the next venue. Even if you feel the staff's washy-washy requests are a bit over the top, you can never be too cautious. This is especially true before eating. Nothing is worse than seeing someone bypass the hand washing station and grab the buffet utensils right before you. But the pro cruisers we talked to said they never pass up the opportunity to either sanitize their hands or quickly wash them during the voyage. Even if your cruise line doesn't require reservations for restaurants or shows, odds are you will want to reserve some things before you board the ship, like shore excursions. For the most part, pre-booking other items like internet packages or drink packages is cheaper before the cruise as well. When we first started cruising, almost everyone booked add-ons once on board the ship. We can remember flipping through shore excursion booklets and filling out these forms in the atrium on those first cruises. Now, we reserve everything months before the cruise. This includes dining reservations at specialty restaurants or the My Time dining if applicable. The popular restaurants and ideal dining times do book up quickly. This also pertains to some entertainment reservations. On mega ships from brands such as Royal Caribbean and Norwegian Cruise Line, some nightly shows require reservations. If you can make these reservations beforehand, please do so, or make them as soon as you board the ship on embarkation day. If you've been cruising for a while, you are familiar with the mandatory safety briefing called the muster drill. This used to be the worst part of the first day of your cruise. But back then, seasoned cruisers knew that the quicker the muster drill was completed, the faster everyone could return to enjoying the rest of the cruise. Now, completing this step is even easier than ever. So, like many pro cruisers, one of the first things we do on embarkation day is to complete the muster drill. How do we do this? Well, many cruise lines now institute what's known as an e-muster. This means that cruisers can complete the drill at their convenience, primarily on the cruise line's app or on your stateroom television. After watching the required safety videos, all you need to do is check in at your assigned assembly station. This in-person visit takes only a few moments, where the staff reviews how to don a life jacket and quickly reviews some of the most pertinent safety information. Even though it's digital, it still needs to be completed before sail away. So the same mantra applies. Complete your muster drill as soon as possible. That way you have the rest of the afternoon to enjoy the first day of your cruise. Now, speaking about the first day of your cruise, that initial embarkation day is what's going to set the stage for the rest of your vacation. And way too often, we see many cruisers making some huge mistakes. So to ensure you're one step ahead of everyone else on that first day of your cruise, we put together our look at the 21 mistakes cruisers make on embarkation day and how you can avoid them. That way, your next cruise is smooth sailing.